Hello and welcome to the Gooner Ramble podcast. I'm your host Giles, joining you 24 or 48 hours after Tuesday night's 2-0 defeat at home to the hands of the world's best team, Barcelona. Joining me today, tonight, or whenever you're going to listen to this, to pick over the remains of the day, our regular Clive. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Yes, I am fine. How are you?
Not too bad, considering I've got Mark, regular, irregular. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right, Giles. Thanks, mate.
And another miscreant from over yonder. We've got FK. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, good evening. I'm good, man. I'm good. You?
Not too bad, not too bad. All right, so let's crack on. Wenger's record of qualifying for the last 16 is unblemished. I think it's 18 years or something like that, 17, 18 years of unbroken attendance in the last 16. But here's another less heralded stat. It's 5 years in a row we've lost the first leg of a last 16 tie. 4 years in a row we've lost the first leg by 2 clear goals. It wasn't great. It was all right at first, but in the end it wasn't great, and it was something that we were all so I suppose we were dreading. Clive, I'm going to start with you. How would you assess yesterday's game?
Right, obviously you've had a day to think about it, and to be honest, even yesterday as the game went on, it was a strange feeling watching that game. I wasn't too stressed watching it until into the second half, and suddenly the spaces became bigger, and you thought we were starting to just get a bit overexcited. And basically, normally above the games, you watch them through your fingers, right? They are so energetic, they are so aggressive, and they push you into your box. But this time, I felt we had possession. We had periods where we were stretched, and tactically, I thought we did really well. And I'm watching the game. A couple of chances go by, a couple of near misses go by, but I looked at Arsenal, and I always look at see how coached or prepared we are. And I thought we looked prepared. I thought we looked coached. I thought we knew our jobs. And it was quite encouraging, because often I criticise us as not being a team that really owns its size, and we don't prepare like a top team should. And I always look for that preparation. I always look for the jobs that the players have. Ramsey was good. I'm a big critic of him, but he was good in the first half. And it sort of started out like quite encouraged, right? Without ever believing we would win it. I was hoping for a 0-0, no drama game, right, to make it a second leg worth going for. So first half, I'll just concentrate on that for now. First half, I was pleased. I was pleased at the halftime result. I wasn't over-encouraged, but the quality gap wasn't massive. It was something that I felt we could cause them a few problems. But as the game dragged on, that obviously wasn't the case.
FK, Clive said that, we started, decently. We started decent, didn't give them too many chances. I think you could say it was 1-1 in terms of clear-cut chances as the first half ended. We didn't we didn't have a lot of the game. We didn't have a lot of the ball in that first half. But were you encouraged by that first half showing?
Yeah, I was encouraged by the first half showing, but I think, Clive's right by saying that there was always this underlying feeling that you just thought Barcelona, if they wanted to, they could have just pushed up the gear and, just caught us, which they did. I thought we played really well. We went toe-to-toe first 45. I don't think they had one shot on target in that first half. That was quite encouraging. We played well, spurned the chance. Obviously, the Ox, I'm sure he's probably feeling really awful about it today, just like all of us. But, at this level, if you don't take your chances, you're going to get punished, and that's exactly what happened. We made 2 mistakes. Mertesacker so high up the pitch, he's obviously lunged in and missed the ball. He's just gone all in, and they've caught us on the break, and they've punished us brutally. And then the second goal, again, Mertesacker, a bit of a clumsy sort of clearance, passed it straight into the path of Messi, and Flamini's obviously just lunged in, coming on, 45 seconds ago, or whatever it was, and, penalty and 2-0, and it's good night. I mean, it's not just a tie that I was a bit disappointed with. I think it's, the reason why we played Barcelona in this round is because, we messed it up in the group stages. People can point the finger all they want to, certain individual performances or whatever. But right from the get-go, the team selection, I think Wenger made 6 changes away in Zagreb. There wasn't a need to rotate so much. And then, of course, Spina came in and made a clanger. And the writing was on the wall when we got the draw. I think everybody, even the most optimistic of Arsenal fans, would have probably gone in yesterday thinking, well, if we give a good account of ourselves, we've got a very, very small outside chance. And ultimately, I think looking back at the game, yeah, we played well for 60, 70 minutes, but Barca have just stepped it up. They've punished us, and now they look comfortable.
Mark, what was the feeling inside the stadium? I mean, we gave up so much possession, and we didn't, as the other two said, we didn't really give them too much to go on. But I suppose you felt there must have been that pervading feeling of all they need to do is switch it. The MSN just need to switch it on, and in a moment, in a blink of an eye, and then I suppose the threat was there. I mean, did you see it coming when they actually scored? When they did?
No, well, not actually when they did, but I think it was that sense. I mean, I said at half time, you could see that we as a team, as each individual player, all the little units and the team as a whole were having to work really, really hard to kind of cope with their movement, which is just, it always amazes me, when you get to watch Barcelona come to Emirates and Bayern Munich as well. You watch them, you just realise how good those teams are. Their movement, the way there's always someone there to pass, their technical ability throughout the team is what always strikes me. And I just thought we were pushing ourselves really hard just to kind of live with them. And they did a good job. I couldn't really criticise anyone in the first half. The guys all did what they needed to do. I think Ox missed a really good chance. I thought it was a poor attempt by Ox, and then I think he didn't help us with getting the injury that he did, because there was absolutely no need for him to get injured like that. We're on the break. He needs to move the ball a bit earlier. He takes it too far, takes a bad touch, and then I don't know what he was trying to do, whether he was trying to kill Mascherano or what, but he gets injured, and then I think losing Ox, who had played very well from a defensive point of view in the job that he had to do, Theo was never going to do that. So I think that was poor. So I just sort of thought, what, we've done really well, but I just looked at them and thought they've got at least one more gear to go through here, and that. What we had to do in that first half is hard work physically, but it's extremely hard work mentally. You have to be so disciplined to put in a performance like that for 45 minutes. The longer the game went on, the more I felt that was going to unravel, and that was when Barca would punish us, and that's kind of what happened.
It's interesting because Wenger said that he was expecting from the semi, as the game wore on, that we'd probably take over in terms of our energy and fitness, as we did against Bayern Munich, Clive. I mean, but as soon as they hit us with that sucker punch, it was kind of like, we were now hoping that it would only be 1-0. I mean, looking at the goal and what led to the goal, a lot of people are pointing fingers at Ramsey and Mertesacker, but I also thought that Coquelin was about 15 yards too far forward, as that because they caught us from our attack, and he was kind of ahead of the play. And I thought there's no need for him to be ahead of the play. He should have been the one, standing back 15 yards and watching out. As it was, we lost the ball. Ramsey couldn't get round on the cover. Mertesacker's in no man's land, and the rest is history. Looking at it from your lens.
Well, you've asked me about 10,000 questions.
Yeah.
Right? So I'll dial back a little bit.
Yeah.
I think on the Barcelona piece, I listened to Graham Hunt on the radio last night, and he was saying that before the game, Barcelona in Spain was seen to be a little bit vulnerable, a little bit fatigued, and a little bit mentally weak. Right, and they did have some serious concerns if Arsenal could hold out what had happened in the last 20 minutes. So what Wenger said may look silly to us now, but actually that was the vibe coming out of Europe, right? So I think to go on from what Mark was speaking about earlier, when you walk away from the ground or you've just seen a game live, and you always walk away with certain emotions. And we're Arsenal fans, right? So we're totally biased. We love all the players. We think they're the best team in the world, blah, blah, blah. But that game really sort of hit me that where our limits are. And I could see the limits in some of the players that we really, really do worship. And it sort of made me think, about Wenger, is his legacy going to be a group of players that really have got limits versus some of the players he had before that seem to have no limits in my eyes, right? So I just saw us hit a limit, and we could all see it coming. We knew we couldn't sustain the level of physical effort to keep the bay. And that's my overriding emotion. There's some players there that may be slightly overhyped in their own minds that have got limits, right? And that came to me. On the goal, I kept tweeting out during the game, calm down. It's too open. And I didn't want to be boring, but I just wanted a 0-0. The only way to beat Barcelona is in my opinion, is 180 time. If you can get them into the last quarter level or close to level, you start to affect their mentality and their confidence. But we never seem to get past the first leg in any sort of shape, right? So the green spaces were getting bigger. Coquelin made a run into the box for no reason. Ball gets reset, it comes out. And where we had an opportunity to grab him round the waist and just take him out, we decided to let him play. And Neymar skips into our speedy centre-back, Mertesacker, and the rest is history, right? One chance, goal, done, heads go down, and we're back in familiar territory. So I do think Wenger was seen to be very angry about the naivety we showed last night, and I don't think he was alone.
Yeah, FK, after the game, Wenger did say that they'd spoken at length about not being caught on the counter-attacks. You go back to Monaco, you go back to Anderlecht, you go back to Olympiacos, and it's not a one-off. We have been caught on the counter-attack quite often in Europe. Were you surprised by the lack of intelligence from our boys at that point?
No, I wasn't surprised by the lack of intelligence. I think we've demonstrated that on a few occasions, like you've just beautifully illustrated. A lot of those games, and even in the Premier League, we're prone to, dusting off our self-destruction button and then pressing it, fashionably so. I think we get ourselves into trouble too often, too easily. I think the mental side of our game can be better, and Clive mentions, some of the great teams that Arsene created in his first few years at Arsenal. They were fantastic teams, but even they had weaknesses on the continent. I know we went to the final in 2006, but that season, maybe a couple of other kind of seasons, but over the sort of 19, 20 years that Arsene's been in charge, you can say that on the European side of things, we've rarely hit the heights that fans, I guess, would have been optimistic of hitting. We do seem to have similar kind of errors in our game. It's a bit frustrating. And I think the most surprising thing for me, Giles, last night was Arsene Wenger actually admitting so openly, because normally he comes out and he'll say something about, spirit was good and technically we were good and the sharpness just wasn't there, or maybe he could have used Leicester, going full throttle until the last minute as a bit of an excuse. But he's actually just come out and said, we've seen this before. It was totally naive. We've let ourselves down. Technically, we were average. That's not verbatim, but that was a general gist, and that was quite surprising in itself. Now, I don't know. I'm caught in two minds as to why he would have come out and said that. He's either looking to hang out his team in public and looking for a reaction on Sunday, or frustration of just that lack of progression in Europe is really getting to him, because he knows he's coming towards the end of his career. That'd be music to some people's ears, but you can understand that this is the one competition that he so desperately wants, and to see his teams that he creates year after year have the same kind of flaw just must be infuriating. And actually, you do wonder whether I don't think it's a technical sort of coaching thing. It's not something you work on the training ground. It's a completely, the mental side of the game is so different. And that could be about leaders. It could be about the type of player that you buy. It could be, their backgrounds and upbringing in terms of their football education. There's a lot there to be said. We do seem sort of soft. We have this underbelly, soft underbelly, where like I said, we disrupt from time to time, and we're just not strong on that side of the game. So to answer your question in a long-winded way, Giles, no, I'm not surprised because it's happened before. I would fully expect it to happen again, but I don't think it's a playing weakness. It's more of a mental weakness.
Mark, FK is just, he's talked about Wenger possibly being infuriated, exasperated by the fact that time and time it happens again. These players are his. He coaches them, he prepares them. He's been he's been on the job for nearly 20 years or so. He's seen it so many times. Can we ever, at the risk of playing devil's advocate with you guys, can we ever trust Wenger to actually get it right? I mean, FK said at the start of the season, the last night's problems came home to roost. If you look back at the start of the season and the start of the European campaign, he didn't take it seriously. Can we ever trust him to get it right? Do you ever have the faith that he will get it right? Well,
no. I mean, I recognise anyone that knows me knows that I haven't got any faith in him anymore. I lost that faith quite some time ago. I just think it's that if the problem is the technical ability of the players, that's one thing. If the problem is mentality and the fact that they don't seem to be able to do what he's telling them to do for 90 minutes, so you kind of look at it and you think, okay, going back to what both Clive and FK have said, is it was the issue that the players lost sight of how well they'd done in the first half, and keep it tight. We don't need to do too much, and we'll be all right. Or do the players on the pitch lose their head and start thinking, right, we can win this, and just start drifting forward and out of position? I mean, with that first goal, you got to look at where the two centre halves are. Now if there is a game plan and that's not part of the game plan, a manager of Wenger's experience should be able to see that happening and get up and address that and tell the team to reset back into the shape he wants and not get carried away. It's only 60 minutes. Let's just calm down. We don't need to go gung-ho. There's no need for it. So you have to wonder, is it him not being able to get them to do it, or is it the players that they just get carried away and then they're not disciplined enough to see that plan through for 90 minutes? This is what worries me, because either way we're fucked. Because if it's Wenger, we're fucked, and if it's the players, we're fucked, because the two have to work together. Wenger has to be able to get the players to do what he wants them to do, and the players have to be the ones that will have faith in him to listen and do it. So, I mean, I really don't know. I don't know which it is. Why Wenger said what he said. I mean, I didn't even really hear what he said, to be perfectly honest. So why he said what he said, I don't know. Is he if he's at least trying to get a reaction out of them for Sunday, then fair enough.
I felt Wenger coached angry last night. I felt he looked angry. I thought he coached angry. I think he really prepared for the game, and I think he felt a bit let down by certain players. And I may be overthinking it, right? But after Giroud done that wonderful reverse pass to nobody, the crowd went mad and he got hooked. Now, I wasn't in the ground. Mark, Velbek might have been warming up for 20 minutes, so he may have been preordained. But from the TV, it looked like he got hooked, right? And Coquelin didn't take out Neymar on the break. He gets hooked. I'm looking and I'm wondering, why did he get substituted? Right? And I felt afterwards he was tetchy. FK spotted it. He doesn't ever criticize a player directly like he did last night. I thought he really let him have it, Wenger style. That's not like him, right? He's very protective. And I thought he coached angry. I thought he really wanted that. And it didn't quite work out. But if you look at it a bit more holistically, it was a very similar game to Bayern Munich. We hit that 70-minute mark, but this time we didn't get the first goal. And if you look at it, football's very, very simple, right? You just got to score. And goals put a gloss on everything. We had some good moments, but we didn't score. And that's a collective issue. I'm not even going to look at the individuals. I think collectively we are weak in both boxes mentally. Our ability to make good decisions defensively and our ability to execute with composure in the last third is really poor right now, at a time when it needs to shape up and get better, because we're reaching the time of the season where we want to win things, right? And that's a bit of a worry.
You talk about the lack of offensive fluency. I think Mertesacker said that yesterday or today. He said that when you don't score, basically the extra burden is put on the defence to make sure the other team don't score as well. And over the last since I don't know Liverpool game, you can say we've kind of been. We really have been off the ball. I know we won 2-1 against Leicester and 2-0 against Bournemouth, but we spoke the other day about chance creation and chance conversion. No problem with chance creation. Maybe you could look into the types of chances that we create, but chance conversion is a problem. Last night, Giroud didn't have the best of games. Walcott came on, didn't really affect the game. Welbeck, I think he should have started or should have come on earlier. We're going to have to somehow find the faith in these players as the weeks go on. FK, do you think that our mojo's just around the corner? We're gonna go to Old Trafford, say, and pick up our game and really put in a performance to bring back the belief to the fans and Wenger?
Look, I share the frustration about not being able to score goals in recent games. I do think we had a bit of a grueling period over Christmas and obviously into the new year, going to Anfield, going to Stoke, and then Southampton at home was such a frustrating game, but we created 10 shots on target, 24 shots or whatever it was in total. Again, similarly at Hull, we created so many chances, and of course you lack that killer instinct in front of a goal. If you're not that efficient, then it's frustrating, but luckily for us, we've not conceded in those two games. I think after a match like last night, it's really easy to just dissect and tear the team apart and take everything out of context, because you've got to remember that, all right, look, we've been beaten, and fairly, by one of the best teams in Europe, and it looks like, as the writing was on the wall, we were going to go out round. But we're 2 points off the top. And I know, people listening will probably think, oh, here we go, classic sort of, excuses or whatever, but it's not an excuse. I mean, we're 2 points off the top with 12 games to play or whatever it is. We're still in the FA Cup with a favourable home draw if we can overcome Hull in the replay. And with chances, I think, I'm not concerned, but I do think that actually creating chances hasn't been a problem. It's just actually getting that ball over the line. And for whatever reason, it just hasn't happened in 2 or 3 games. And it happens over a season of football. It will happen. Alexis is coming back from an injury and he doesn't look 100. He doesn't look 100%. Coquelin's just come back to midfield, and Ramsey, I think, has been a bit of a passenger in recent games. But Ozil's doing his best. On the right, Wenger's changed between Ox, Walcott. He just can't seem to get some sort of rhythm out there on the right hand side, and it's really easy to point the finger at Giroud. But if the wide men aren't supplying, there's not really much he can do. I mean, he did have a good chance yesterday, and Ter Stegen made a really take from a header. And actually, against Leicester, I thought Giroud was outstanding. It's forgivable, I guess, for some fans to be really panicking now. We've got Old Trafford coming up on Sunday, but we are creating chances, and in one of these games we are gonna score. And once we score, I do get a feeling that we might just get that confidence back. Maybe it's a confidence thing. We just need an early goal in a game to settle nerves, and you might see that once you score one, we'll go on to score a couple more. So I wouldn't say I was concerned. I'm frustrated. Of course, I'm gutted, because yesterday, if the Ox scores that, it's a completely different story. And likewise, we probably could have done without the replay against Hull. But the chances are being created. I'd be more worried, put it this way, if we couldn't get the ball into the final third and we weren't having anything on goal. That would be more concerning for me.
What do you reckon, Mark? We're creating a lot of chances. Do you think it's just a matter of one goes in off the backside of Giroud or whoever's arse, and the goals will start running? Do you think there's a deeper? I mean, I understand what you're saying, FK. That it looks like we're dissecting, we're overreacting. But if you look back over the last 7 or 8 games, there is a trend that we are struggling to score, aren't we, Mark? I mean, it's not a coincidence. I mean, last night probably polarizes it in some respect, but we are struggling to put the chances away.
Yeah, I mean, in all fairness to FK, I wouldn't have expected him to say anything different. He's looking at things from a very positive stance. I mean, for me, the problem I see is that it's the type of chances that are being created. And I think the issue is that it's Ozil. Ozil has gone off the boil a little bit. Probably because a lot of the team seem to have lost their mojo, which does impact him. But I think when Ozil creates a chance, these are decent scoreable chances. The other chances that we sometimes create, they're not so easy to finish, and we're not at all being clinical at the moment. You look at the 3 chances that we had last night with Ox, that's shocking attempt at a finish. Ramsey's one. I'd have thought Ramsey, maybe did well to get there. Good work by Welbeck, but surely Ramsey should try and just get a little bit more on that. And the Giroud header, I thought it wasn't a bad header really. Great cross. It was a decent header down towards the corner, but easy enough for Ter Stegen to save. So I don't know. I just think there's too many players that seem to be misfiring at the moment, and I'm not convinced that they can really turn that around in a heartbeat. I think this is going to take a lot of work mentally as well as physically for them to get their heads back on. You're looking at Alexis is not playing that great. Walcott is a waste of space at the moment. Ox ain't doing too well. Ramsey's not really looking like he's going to be scoring many goals anytime soon. Giroud is doing what Giroud does. Giroud polarises the fan base. A lot of people stand up for him, and a lot of people just absolutely think he's terrible. And I'm somewhere sort of in the middle. I see the dirty work that he does, and people don't give him credit for that, and he's feeding off scraps. But then you look at that, what Clive alluded to, that passage of play where he pulled that reverse pass out to no one was just, that was dire. And Clive's right, the entire stadium went fucking mental at that point because it was that pathetic. But that's where they're all just they're not firing at all. And we've scraped through games. The Leicester game was brilliant, but would we have won that if they hadn't gone down to 10 men? I don't know. If they'd have kept 10 men on the pitch, I think we might have struggled to get more than a draw out of that. So I'm not. Listen, United are shit, mate. If we cannot go to Old Trafford, and half of the problem there is we've got a mental block in the league going up there. But if we cannot go up there and take 3 points from them, then we have got no chance at all. Because all of these games are going to require a lot of Arsene Wenger's favourite mental strength. We've got United away, Tottenham away, West Ham away, Everton away, City away. Those are 5 huge away games. It's often in places where we struggle a little bit. Even if the teams, Everton losing at home to West Brom, you'd think we'll go up there and we'll coast it. We don't always do that well at Goodison. So these are big matches, and the team has got to start performing well, but they've also got to get their heads right as well. And at the moment, I'm not convinced they look like a team that's going to go. But then again, mind you, no one does, to be fair. No one looks like they want to win the league.
Clive, loving the Arsenal at K4YN3R says, how do we solve a problem of crumpled confidence? Do you think the confidence will be really at a low after last night? Because everyone was saying it's a free pass. We're not going to beat Barcelona as long as we don't get tonked. We should be all right. Do you think that the team will be suffering or mentally? We don't know. We're not inside the colony. But what do you think?
Well, I hope they don't wheel out Theo Walcott to pepper us all up with one of his wonderful articles, right? To say we're going to take it out on Man United, because I may do my head in. But I think we have to keep it in perspective a little bit, right? And Mark spoke about the 3 chances, and I 100% agree with him about chance quality, right? We're having chances, but our chance quality is not great. Even last night's chance, Ox's chance, the way he approached that chance was of a player and of a team that hasn't had the ball for a while, hasn't had many touches in their box. I've got a chance to score. I've to score. The first touch goes wrong. He falls over. Ramsey has run into Welbeck's knockdown, you could almost see his knees buckling, as he's running towards it. He was never quite getting there, right? Get an ooh from the crowd, jogs back. It's not good enough, right? Giroud, affected by Mascherano on the header. Mascherano dives into his body. That's when you got to either buy a foul, show a bit of composure, get your body position right, bring it down, do it on your chest, second touch volley, goal. And that's what we're lacking. And that's what I'm talking about by limits. I saw technical limits and mental limits in our players, right? That there's sometimes when the moment came, their decisioning and managing technique under pressure was not good. And that worries me because Arsenal are a beautiful, technical, flowing team that can play football with anyone. But actually at the moment, I'm trying to think back to the last good technical performance that we've seen. It hasn't been great. It hasn't been great. Man United first 20 minutes, beautiful, right? There's been a few patches at Leicester, beautiful. There hasn't been many. City for 25 minutes, really good. We haven't flown through a game. We haven't dominated many games. We've got to a point in the season where the crunch is coming. We all know the fixtures. And let's be honest, we're not sure if we've got the mentality and the ability to execute at Old Trafford, regardless of how crap they are. Right? And as for Everton, 3 days after Barcelona away, that game scares the death out of me, right? So we haven't gone there. Mark's right. We don't go to these places and do well historically. And I am wavering while still being hopeful.
FK, I don't know if you want to respond to any of that, but do you feel that, are you confident that they'll get their confidence back? I mean, like we say, it doesn't matter what kind of team Man United are at the moment. If we're not in our game, we could, that's a banana skin. It's not even a banana skin. I mean, it's a traditional big game. We traditionally don't go there to win very often. Certainly not in recent years.
Well, look, I don't think it's a confidence thing. I think, if you get absolutely spanked 3 or 4 by any team, like we did against Southampton, for example, the players will wake up the next morning, obviously with a big, massive dent in their confidence and morale, etc., etc. But we've just been beaten by Barcelona in a very disappointing manner. I think that's probably the word. I think the players will be gutted, they'll be disappointed in themselves. And let's not forget, you beat Leicester City on Sunday, and just because you win against a team who are currently top of the league and do the double, does that mean that does it mean that all of a sudden confidence is sky high and that we're going to win everything? No, it doesn't. I mean, it's just a game we played when we got 3 points. I certainly hope the players aren't low in confidence after last night. I think they'll be really disappointed. I think they'll take the positives out of the fact that we were really good in the first 45 minutes. And I'd probably disagree with Clive with respect to the to the point of our players not being technically good enough. I think, the Ox he's obviously fluffed that chance, but he is technically good enough to score from that kind of situation. It's just obviously he's just messed up his lines on the night under the floodlights, which is a massive shame. But it's not that he's incapable. It's just he's messed it up. But Sunday is a massive game. I know every game is a massive game at this stage, but it's predominantly for that record that you've just said, Giles. We're not too good at Old Trafford. I know on my travels, we were talking before we started recording this particular podcast. I've been up to Old Trafford to see Arsenal, Manchester United 10 times, and I've never seen us win. So, and I'm going this Sunday, so you can blame it on me if we don't. But
I'm thinking of putting a pin in your tyres.
Yeah, but the reality is that if we do get a result against United, and we're capable of doing it, we beat them at Old Trafford last year. We are a stronger team this year. They seem to be all over the shop, and he's going to go full strength tomorrow against the Danish team that beat them last week in the Europa Cup. So everything to play for. Everything to play for.
You make some good points. I mean, I think whenever we've reacted pretty well to adversity this season. I think one or two of the players mentioned it yesterday or today in the papers that we usually do respond to adversity. Also, Man United are playing 48 hours after ourselves against Mataland. That's going to work in our favour, isn't it? Recuperation, recovery times, and so on and so forth. Prepping for the game.
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, yeah, you'd think so because obviously, given the result of the first leg, I think is it group stages or is it leg stage? I can't keep up with the Europa Cup. Yeah. Right. So if it's knockout, then clearly they're going to want to go through, and I would expect Van Gaal to play a stronger team at home. He's under pressure to get a result. So yeah, I mean, you never know. They've two extra days rest. We can regroup. And hopefully we'll come back on Sunday. But we can sit here and before every weekend, we regroup, we recover. It's a bit of a broken record, but it genuinely is that. We've got a real big chance to beat United and make a statement again. I do wonder how the boys will react, because Leicester, I think, play on the Saturday and they're at home to Norwich, so you'd expect them to beat them. And all of a sudden it's a 5-point gap, and if we lose on Sunday, then the wheels can well and truly come off. But what an opportunity! Go to the ground of your nemesis team, turn them over, do the double over them, and on we go.
Okay, look, I'm going to go to some questions now, and most of these questions are basically pointed at individuals. So bear with me, guys. We're just going to possibly look at some of the individual cases. We've got the first question from @JazzAFC, and he says, "Why does Walcott have such a tendency to disappear in tough games? Was he arguably more effective 4 or 5 years ago?" Mark, I'll give that question to you.
He's just not he's just not in the races, mate. He's had 10 years at the club, and has he actually developed as much as you'd expect somebody to develop in 10 years? Either, to be honest, either as a centre forward where he seemingly wants to play, or even as a wide right player. I'm not convinced he has. You look at the Walcott that made that goal for Adebayor at Anfield. What was that, 6-7 years
2008,
ago?
yeah.
Yeah, it's 8 years ago, mate. And I don't know. I think he just reached a point, and that was it. I'm not convinced he's going to get any better. Walcott drives me fucking nuts, mate. Can't be doing. I can't honestly. I see the kid, and he's like there, and the club has shown so much faith in him, and they've fucking spunked loads of money on him in wages over the last 10 years, and where's he repaid us? Lovely fella, he's a great kid, I'm sure, and I'm sure lots of our fans loved the whole fucking chest bump thing, or whatever that stupid thing he does with Mertesacker is, and that's great PR for the club. But for me, as Clive said, he's one of the players that's really not going to take us to the level that we need to get to if we want to progress. If we want to just fuck about and stay where we are, then maybe he'll help us to do that, but he's not going to take us forward.
Clive, do you want to come in on that?
Yeah, well, no, I'll stop laughing, right? So, Theo's he's just an interesting player, right? He's one of those players that when he's hot, you can't take your eyes off him. But last night he done what I call his David Copperfield, right? He managed to disappear in front of 500 million people. I don't know how he does it. He comes on and literally I can't find him. I just can't find him on my TV. I just can't see him. And how does he do that? Yet we had a substitute appearance at the weekend and he was everywhere. He had more touches in 20 minutes he normally has in 2 games. And that's Theo Walcott, right? But then I'm not sure that player should be our highest paid player. Because when you're a higher paid player, there's a level of accountability that comes with that, right? And you can agitate for the money, but with that comes responsibility. And we just not seen the level of consistency I would expect from a 26-year-old that's been at the club for 10 years. But I want to come back a little bit at what FK. I want to explain a little bit more about limits. I just saw limits to the players a little bit physically, not so much technically. I think we got a wonderful technical team, but there were periods in that game when Rakitic was running Ramsey down, when we were people getting pushed off the ball, when we just couldn't quite run away from people. And we're used to watching our players really dominate technically and physically with sharpness and touch around the corner, moving the ball quickly. And we dominate teams and make them flag. But we were the ones that were flagging. And that was really, I'm not used to seeing that. I'm not used to Sanchez take a ball inside, run inside, and 3 people just take it off him and say, go away. And I just saw limits to our players. And when you put limits on players, and it all kills your hopes and dreams, right? So I do think there's some issues there in our team about some of the players that we really worship. I think we may need to reassess. I don't mean throw the baby out of the bathwater, but maybe some of them need to look at how hard they're working and how tactically astute they are to get to the next level.
FK, I want to bring another question to you. We've got one from @GoCool, and he asks, is it suicidal to play a high-pressing game when Mertesacker's playing?
Is that to me?
Yes, to you.
Well,
sorry, the quality of the questions.
Well, clearly, look, Mertesacker's He's not the fastest of defenders. We know that. So if you're playing high up the pitch and he's caught out like he did last night, yeah, I mean, it is suicidal because you have to rely on Koscielny to sweep up. And normally he does, but occasionally the opposition will get through and they'll punish us like they did last night. So it's dangerous. I guess it depends on the caliber of opposition. You know, if you're playing against, let's say, a Hull City or a Burnley in the cup, then yeah, press up as high as you want, have a high line, do what you want, and you more often than not you'll beat the opposition. But if you're playing a team that have quick transition, that have pacey players up top in the final third, those who can punish you, then yeah, it's probably not the wisest decision. And actually, I think yesterday Arsenal probably got his tactics spot on, but a player who's played 100 times for Germany, what he's doing, lunging in, it's just a moment of madness. The blood's got to his head. He's seen the ball. He's thought, sod it, I'm going all in. It's basically double or nothing. He's completely missed the ball and the player, and they've gone down the other end and typically put it away and punished us. So it's dangerous, but it depends on who you're playing against.
Indeed. Question here. Does this team feel like a Wenger team right now? Been poor in keeping possession in many games this season. Would you say to that, to FK?
Have we been poor in keeping possession?
Does this team feel like a Wenger team right now? Because we've been very poor in keeping possession this season, in many games this season. Given
the mistakes we made on the European platform last night, it very much feels like a Wenger team, but that's a bit tongue-in-cheek. It's naughty. I think we've adjusted our style of play. I think Wenger's basically the players and us have basically realised that possession is not the be-all and end-all. I think we use the ball a bit smarter. Actually, it doesn't matter whether you have 20% or 80% of possession as long as the results go your way. And so far, 12 games to go, 2 points off the top. You can't argue that, we're far off the right way. But yeah, I guess there is a point we're not, boring the death out of opposition fans by keeping the ball as much as perhaps we used to. But it's not really important to me. I think the results what's most important, I guess.
Okay. At Zarif Kamal is basically points to your statement, Clive, says, was the subs made a statement to the team? You will be subbed for not making the right decision, which I'm sure he's talking about the hooking Giroud and Coquelin. Moving on, Steve Neighbour, our friend, has asked quite a mischievous question, and he says, the first step in dealing with any problem is admitting the problem exists. Wenger, discuss.
You can't give that to me, right? Mark's probably unmuting it right now, right? So, no, I think it's a big one. It's a big topic. Like, I've always had an issue with Arsenal. I've always had an issue with what I call their hierarchy. My issue is not Wenger per se, because I'm not sure there's anyone that cares more about the club than him, right? But my issue is he's the only one. I don't like a situation where in any sort of company, firm, department, wherever you want a club, I don't like single points of failure with no succession plan. All right, so I think we have a hierarchy problem. If Wenger loses on the trot and the fans go crazy, I'm not sure there's anyone at the club who has the credibility and the quality to say to him, sorry mate, your time's up. There's nothing there. There's a hole there in our hierarchy. I would like to see more people of Wenger's standard in the club to work with him to make us bigger as a organisation, right? So I do have issues about our mentality. I do have issues about the environment he creates. But I also have a massive respect for some of the good things about the environment he creates. He develops people, develops players, he creates pathways to playing, and I think that's admirable. He looks after that club top to bottom, and there is nobody like him, when it comes to intelligence, how he operates, he's just a unique individual. My worry is there's no one else like him. So when is he going to trust his legacy to somebody else? And at some point, as we all know in life and in work and things that we do, you sometimes got to know when to retire your innings. And I'm not sure he's thinking about that. I'm not sure he should think about that. But I would like to see a clear succession plan developing at Arsenal. I think it's very important that his legacy is not going to be wrapped up in an inconsistent Theo Walcott. I want to see him have his moment, right? And so that's my concern. Leadership, does it create a different, by changing people, does it create a different mentality? Well, that's what we all hope. I'm not sure that will be the case, but I would like to see some sort of forward planning, but I don't think that time is right yet, but it's getting closer.
FK?
Oh, Clive, you talked about one of my sort of sporting heroes, I guess, in a very favourable way. And Mark's going to probably cringe at this, but the reality is Arsene Wenger is one of the greatest managers in the game. He's one of the greatest managers Arsenal Football Club have ever had. And like everything that Clive just said, you have to plan for the future, and one day he will step down. And on the note of succession planning, Clive, I don't think, given the way that we're so secretive about transfer fees and player targets and all that kind of stuff, I don't think we'll ever hear about anything in public. I certainly don't think we'll ever do a City where we appoint a manager midway through a season and talk about, you know, the existing manager moving on. I also don't think, for what it's worth, that Arsene Wenger will be involved in choosing his replacement. He's mentioned it once or twice in recent times about wanting to make a clean break from the club, the club and football. You know, when he decides his time's up. I do think there's a chance of him getting a new contract. So that's something to watch, I guess. And the other thing is, you know, as much as I love Arsene Wenger, and I know a lot of Arsenal fans have got a lot of time for him as well, I think that the current divide in the fan base is quite poisonous. And I do think that if he doesn't go on to win anything this year, and I still consider the FA Cup a major trophy, then I think there comes a point when the differences between opinions in the fan base are irreconcilable, and it becomes almost too hostile to get behind the team, because the atmosphere can be really poisonous. And Arsenal fans, just like any other set of football fans, we're not very good at keeping our calm and not very good at keeping things in perspective. And just finally on Arsene Wenger, one day he's going to have to go, and of course I look forward to seeing whoever kind of replaces him. But the reality is that there are very, very few managers who are genuinely proven and better than him in the game at the minute, and we're not going to get any of them. So Ancelotti's at Bayern, Guardiola at City, Mourinho is just not an Arsenal manager. He's a very good manager, but I don't like him as a person. There's maybe one or two at Simeone. Does he fit the Arsenal profile? Will he ever manage in England? He's so associated with the Spanish people there. He doesn't speak English and all that kind of stuff. And then you're left kind of scratching your head thinking, well, is it worth changing for the sake of just changing it? When you're 2 points off top and you could win 3 FA Cups in a row. I certainly wouldn't entertain it now. I think if Ancelotti or Guardiola turned up at Colney tomorrow and said, I want the job, I'd be up there to tell Arsene, look, maybe it's wise for you to step aside, but the reality is that there isn't anyone for me right now. And so for that reason, he's got my full support. And again, to pull out a line that everybody hates, you can only judge a manager at the end of the season. And every season over the last 4 or 5 years, our inputs and our outputs have been very, very different. If we go on to win another trophy again this year, then he deserves another season's grace. So that's my take on it.
Before we hand it over to Mark, FK, in your eyes, winning a trophy, say if it's not Premier League, if it's the FA Cup, that's satisfactory in your eyes. You think that wouldn't make you don't think you actually think that would be satisfactory in your eyes. You don't think that would be because for me, I think just winning the FA Cup from this position might be the straw that breaks the camel's back in terms of the split being so final between the fan base. I don't think the FA Cup would actually cut it this season. Last 2 seasons we've been on an upward trajectory. We've gotten used to having the money and what we should do with the money and building a team. But at this point, I don't speak for the fan base, but I'm not so sure that would be satisfactory.
Well, if you're asking me if I'd be satisfied at the season having won a trophy, yeah, I would. If you're asking me if winning a trophy is sufficient for Arsene to stay on for another year, I would agree with that, because he's won a trophy, and that's what we're in the business for. Who doesn't want to day out at Wembley, or who doesn't want to win the league? Now, clearly, if we lose on Sunday and we end up, let's just imagine Leicester City go on to win the league, and we're 10 points off, come the end of the season, FA Cup, let's get to the semi-final, we get knocked out. At that point, and that's assuming we get dumped out by Barcelona as well. At that point, if we're in a situation where we've got 70, 80 million pounds unspent and we've not got anywhere near winning any of the 3 trophies that we realistically go for at the start of the season, then I think he becomes virtually, indefensible. Not even someone like myself could say, he's had a tough year, because he's had all the resources, he's had all the chances, but to fall away so catastrophically would be an absolute disaster. However, if he goes on to win, the league title, that would just be incredible. If he goes on to win the FA Cup, that's not good enough for me. As in, it's not. I'm not going to sit here and say that's all I wanted at the start of the season, but it's good enough for me to say, well, look, we won our first trophy after a few tough years. We won another one after that. We've won another major trophy again this year in the FA Cup. Then, 3 FA Cups on the bounce. How can you want your manager to leave? Unless, like I said, Guardiola or Ancelotti kind of turned up and said, look, I'm in it for the 3 or 5 year plan. So for me, he would get another season's grace.
I don't think anybody will think. I don't think anybody seriously thinks that he's going to go before the end of his tenure. Mm-hmm. But we're talking about getting another contract, because this season is the season. Next season we're all of the belief that the other teams will re-up and come back stronger.
Just on that, Giles, it does annoy me when people say, easiest chance in years for Arsenal to win the league and they blow it. It's the easiest chance in years for United to win the league and they've blown it. It's the easiest chance in years for City to win the league and they've blown it. And it's the easiest chance in years for Chelsea to win another Premier League title, and it looks like they've massively blown it. So every team, the agenda doesn't just fit Arsenal Football Club. The agenda fits every club. Whoever doesn't win the Premier League will look back and think, shit, that was a really easy year. But the reality is the league's not easy. It's just become more competitive. Leicester have shown a lot of managers up. They've also shown a lot of fans up for thinking that you need to spend 70, 80 gazillion million pounds to go out and buy every player under the sun, because they've proved that that's not the way. But Ranieri has shown that actually with a limited budget and with good players and a good coaching setup, you can achieve what they've achieved so far, but the season's far from over. So gosh, I've forgotten where I was going with that point. But
what I'm trying, I suppose I take your point, FK, but we haven't won it for such a long time, whereas Chelsea, City, United have won it in recent years. So to suggest that they will re-up and come again next season isn't far-fetched. To suggest that we will and come again if we don't win this season, I don't think that's on the same level. That's just my own opinion. I just don't think we can say that with the same confidence as a United, or even more so a City or a Chelsea fan would.
I can understand why you'd say that, and I would agree it is subjective, but I think it's dangerous to speculate with 2 months of the season to go, to be thinking, if we don't win it, what if the players leave, and what if we don't attract, and what if everybody else thinks things. But equally, I could turn around and say, well, what if we do win it? What if we do go out and get 2 or 3 more players and we're favourites of the league again next year? Then, what do you do then? So I struggle to think about these kind of scenarios, given that we're so close to actually finding out what happens. Why don't we just wait? The club aren't going to change anything over the next sort of 2 or 3 months. He is a good manager, as Clive said, for so many reasons, and he will leave an amazing legacy at the club. But let's just hope that we are champions at the end of the season. And question back to you, Giles. I know you're really passionate about the club and you go to games home and away. Would you not be satisfied with an FA Cup?
I don't think I would, the day out would be great, don't get me wrong, but I've defended and I've sat on the fence and I've laid off the whole Wenger out thing the last couple of years, because I've seen, for me, there's been mitigating circumstances, but this year we're in such a great position, FK. We're in such a great position, man.
So are Leicester, Spurs and Man City. But I know, I get your point. I really do. Yeah. United were in a good position. They went out and spent £150 million in the summer thinking, they've got the next Ballon d'Or kid, they've got Memphis, the next Cristiano Ronaldo, Depay.
I get that, but here we are. I don't care about where Man United are. Mm-hmm. Here we are. And at this point, 12 games to go, we can almost touch it. For the first time in years, in March, for Christ's sake, we could almost fucking touch it.
And we might.
So, and if we don't, I don't even care if we're a point off of Leicester at the end of the season. I will be pissed off. But you know what? Mark's been waiting here. I would say patiently, but he's got the rope. He's tightening the rope, so I better bring him in before he does something stupid.
I'm signing off. Go for it, Mark.
You know, I like FK. He's a very reasonable guy. He's a very positive supporter of the club and the manager, like a lot of our fan base. But honestly, I'm not being funny. Listening to that has just depressed the fucking life out of me. I just can't understand, you know, and I guess I want to be rational about it and understand it's just a difference of opinion, and you have one opinion and I have another, and you know, near the twain will meet. But I just can't get how people can still be prepared to use so many of these same excuses. I mean, what Chelsea and United fucking collapsing this season has got to do with our challenge for the title, I don't know. You know, it's absolutely nothing to do with it. I would like to point out the fact that Chelsea took fucking 6 points off us, and we will probably be the only team they do the double over this year. But that's another point. That's just a mentality issue. As far as I'm concerned, yeah, the club aren't going to do anything about Arsene Wenger until the end of his existing contract, because the club don't really care that much. When I say the club, the owner doesn't really care that much. The board don't really care that much, because the board do what the owner says, because most of them are only there because they're fucking puppet figures that do whatever Kroenke says. And Gazidis has got a very nice job, and I quite like some of the stuff that he does, but at the end of the day, he works for Kroenke, and he'll kind of toe the line as well. If we were to get to the cup final, I mean, let's look at it. There's us. You know, you've got Chelsea and Everton, one of them's going out, and you've got United who are shit. So there's not that many difficult teams, big teams left in it. So we could go on and win the cup again. And it would be fantastic to be the first modern day team to win the FA Cup 3 years in a row. Yes, I'd love another day out at Wembley. I am fortunate enough that I will get a ticket virtually guaranteed. I am fortunate enough that in my lifetime of supporting Arsenal, I've been to loads and loads of cup finals, and I do count myself lucky, because I know there's a lot of people not in that situation. But you have to sort of think beyond what a great day that would be, and we'd all get pissed and we'd all sing songs if we won the cup. You have to think, actually, hold on a minute, Giles is fucking spot on. We are 2 points behind Leicester. Yeah, not Man City with a huge squad, not Chelsea with a huge squad, or United with a huge squad. We're 2 points behind Leicester, virtually entering into March. This is the best chance we've had to win the title in years. If he can't do it, if he really cannot get this squad, a decent squad of players, to win the league in a season when so many other clubs have failed, when the door is open, when it is in our hands to do it, you know, we haven't really got to rely on anyone. Mathematically, we'd have to rely on Leicester screwing up at least one game. But if we can't, I think you've really got to look at how can you even think about offering him another contract? He's had money to spend, and he has spent it. He's had money to spend, and he's chosen not to spend it. So he's got no more excuses from that point of view. The man is, you know, I've got a lot of respect for Arsene Wenger. What that man did for the club in the first 10 years is immense. He is one of, if not the best manager the club has ever had. But that was the first 10 years. He did a great job, and we won't probably realise until many years have passed that what a good job he did at keeping us competitive, keeping us in the Champions League, which was a financial necessity in the times when we didn't have any money. But those years were like 3-4 years ago, and he spent a lot of money, and he's chosen again, as I say, to not spend a lot of money. So it's all down to him, and half of the problem is that man rules the club. Every single thing about Arsenal Football Club is fucking done by Arsene Wenger. He probably goes down and he trains up the new Delaware staff on how to pull a fucking pint. Yeah? And how to like keep people waiting for as long as you can in the queue, working out how much change you got to give them. I do admire the man, but the problem is that he's a manager of Arsenal Football Club, and he's not going to take us forward. I do not see how he's going to take us forward, and how how there are not more people that can't see that. I don't get. But again, it's about opinions, and I respect FK's opinion, and I don't respect everyone who's on that side of the fence on Twitter, because a lot of them are just fucking idiots. And if I'm perfectly honest, they're as much a fucking idiot as some of the anti-Wenger people come out with the shit as well. So, but I just don't get it, and I really, FK, I'm phoning the Samaritans after this.
Well, look, I'll tell you what I've gone and said that, look, if we finish behind Leicester in the league and we crash out of the FA Cup, he is virtually indefendable. But what happens if he does win the league title, Mark? Do you then all of a sudden, or do others all of a sudden turn around and say, yeah, do you know what? He knew all along. He knows how to win league titles again. And how do you? I guess the reason why I'm so hesitant to basically just say yay or nay to Wenger with 2 or 3 months to play in the league is because you can only judge him once the season's over. Is that fair? Is that? I mean, how can you judge him after 26 games?
Yeah, but I've judged him. I'm not judging him after 26 games. I've judged him after the last 3 seasons. And
and in the last 3 seasons,
we won another FA
Cups.
Yeah, but I'm talking about we're fucking not Tottenham, mate. We're not Tottenham. We're fucking Arsenal.
Yeah, exactly. Won one cup in 40 years.
So Tottenham would be having a complete jizz fest up and down Tottenham High Road if they won one FA Cup, let alone 2 in a row. Yeah, it's not the 1980s Tottenham, yeah, but that's not enough. That's not what this club left fucking Highbury for. That's not what this club sold some of its best players for. Yeah? It's not what this club is paying fucking over £100,000 a week to multiple players, paying £40 million for Mesut Ozil, paying £30 million for Alexis. Yeah, we haven't done that to win the fucking FA Cup and then to win it again. We've done it because we need to be challenging properly for the league title, and now we have an opportunity to do it. Now, if as you say, we go ahead and we win it, and no one would want more. If anyone thinks I don't want us to win the league just for me to be right, they're fucking deluded. Yeah, I love it if we win the title. I hope we win the title, and I will eat as much humble pie as fucking idiots like Jeff want me to, yeah? And I'll be done with that, because winning the title will make me happy. But I can't see this group of players getting us over the line with that manager, even in the worst fucking Premier League race that there's been for years. I just haven't got the faith. But I will be there, and I will support the team, and I will cheer them on, and I'll do what I can to try and help them to get them over the line. I just don't think they'll do it. If he proves me wrong, then yes, I'm going to be in for some huge amounts of shit. And I'll take that, because I ain't going to sit on a podcast ranting and then go and hide. I won't do that, mate. Don't worry. I'll be on Twitter, readily available to find for people to take the piss out of me if we win the league. But I just don't see it happening. But the whole thing about winning the cups, we're not fucking Tottenham Hotspur. Yeah? We are Arsenal Football Club, and we should be aiming higher than that. That's the whole reason that we've gone through the last 10 years. Yeah? Was because we were going to compete with the big boys. And it's certainly not happening in Europe. It's wash, rinse, repeat in Europe. And, this is the season. If he does not win the fucking league this year, I think that is the biggest sign of all, that the man has been passed by other football managers and other technology and other clubs, and it is time for to let him go before this, as you say, this bitter divide between the fans just becomes even fucking worse than it already is today.
Clive.
Peacemaker.
Yeah, interval.
I was listening to that, head in hands, right? But yeah, I hope people don't think just because we lost 2-0 to the best team in the history of football that this conversation is a knee-jerk reaction to that, because I know Mark felt this way for a long time. I know FK feels this way, and I know I do. I've always had an issue about the single point of failure with Wenger, and that's always been an issue for me. He's our coach. He's on the board. He's our director of football. He's our architect. He does everything, right? And that worries me, right? Because I look at things a little bit differently. I'd like to see more people involved, right? A bit of a stronger structure. And that to me is succession planning, because Wenger is irreplaceable in this current structure, right? So he cannot be replaced. There is no one else that's going to be on the board. There's no one else that's going to be a director of football and the coach, do all the forward planning that he does for the club, inside out, off the pitch, the whole lot. He's totally unique, and I respect him, right? Because he built that himself. But everyone makes great points, right? And it's all about how you feel about your football. I tend to look at the football side and the playing side, and I saw some footballing limits last night, and that worries me a lot, because football is about joy and imagination, and you feel that your team's the greatest in the world, and then you see something that just sort of knocks that a little bit and puts things into perspective. And I really do think Sunday is huge. Every game is huge, but I really feel Sunday is huge, right? And it's very important that we react, because if we don't, what we've heard in the last sort of 10 minutes or so will be repeated all over the country from Arsenal fans, and that would be a shame, right? Because his legacy deserves more than that, in my opinion. But if he's not careful, there's going to be more and more people that are going to be feeling as passionate about Mark like Mark does about this, and I'm afraid he won't be able to be protected, and that'll be a crying shame for someone who's put so many years into the club and basically given his life to the club. So I hope that doesn't happen, right? And I hope it works out. I am wavering on the league, but I do hope it works out, and we get there, right?
Yeah, we all do. We all do. I'm still shaking, man.
So, right. listen. It's really important to respect everybody's opinions, and that's what it's about. That's the beauty of the game. One thing that does bug me is the lack of transparency from the club. You don't actually know just how much influence Arsene Wenger has over non-footballing things at the club. Clive, you alluded to the fact that sometimes Arsene Wenger gets all the bad press, and maybe the club let him hang out to dry because they want to be so protective about so many different things. And Mark, you said, over years to come, maybe then only we'll realise just how important the last 10 years of his tenure was compared to the first 10 years. But the reality is Arsenal Football Club have won 13 league titles in over 130 years of existence. We've won 12 FA Cups. I'm not going to read out the club's history, but essentially titles and cups are very, very difficult to win. And I know that this season Leicester currently sit top, so at this moment in time it looks really silly for City, Arsenal, United and Chelsea, but we don't know how it's going to unfold. And if he does go on to win the league title, it's not about proving points and winning points. Sorry, I'm out of breath. I've been going up and down the stairs unpacking boxes, but it's not about proving points and saying I kind of told you so. It's just about realising that actually, you know what, he had a project, a plan, and luckily, for whatever reason, it's all worked out really well. We win the league title, happy days. And even at that point, there might be some fans that think now's the perfect time for him to just episode, leave the club at the top of English football in terms of, the league title at that stage. Fantastic. If he doesn't win it, like Clive says, it'd be such a bitter way for him to have to leave the club, because he has given so much. And again, don't want to get into the whole argument about he could have, he would have had it easy at other clubs, but he genuinely could have gone to most clubs in the world at some stage in his career, but he opted not to for whatever reason. Clearly not money, but it could have been freedom, it could have been whatever. But the reality is, he's the greatest we've had, and we are on the verge of possibly winning our 14th league title, and that would be 4 under him. So let's just not get too carried away just yet. I completely feel Mark's pain. I really do. We've met and we've spoken about this at length, Mark, and he is flawed as a manager. Some of the things that he does, and some of the things that he says frustrates the living daylights out of me. But he's not perfect, and nobody is. And the reality is, he's the best that we've got at the minute. So for now, I'm just going to sit on the fence, wait for the season to unfold. If he wins the league title, I might even be the opinion to say, well, do you know what, Arsene, thank you very much, you've done an amazing job, leave on a high like Ferguson did. And if he doesn't, and if we finish runners up to Leicester and we can't defend the cup, then he becomes indefensible, because there's so much money unspent. Lots of people cited the gaps in the squad that we all kind of needed, and he spurned such a great opportunity. So there are, I'm not trying to bring it all to a close, but there are arguments for both sides. But I think it's really dangerous with 12 games to go, or whatever it is that it is, it's so dangerous to start thinking, we've already messed up, we've already blown it up, or, we've got this in the bag, which I'm not saying any of you guys are doing. But you can see it on Twitter after every game. You see the fallout. You see that, here we go, we've messed it up again, he's got to leave. Or you win against Leicester and all of a sudden it's like, yep, we'll do the league, fantastic, confidence, Arsene Wenger, he knows everything. It's about equanimity. It's about being calm and just keeping things in context and waiting until the story ends. So let's wait and see where we go.
All right, before we let's move on and to our last topic tonight. Before I let you all go, I want to get a sense from you guys of the next 6 league games. How many points you think will accumulate over that period? So the next 6 league games are Man United, Swansea, Tottenham away. We've got West Brom. Gabe's googling the Samaritans as we speak. West Brom, Everton away, and Watford at home. Right. So, Mark, I'm going to start with you. Next 6 games. How many points do you think we will accumulate?
I'd like to say 12. I think we win at United, win at Swansea. I think we'll get a draw at Spurs. We'll win at West Brom, and I think we'll draw at Everton. And then I see Watford being one of those games at home where we get quite frustrated and get a draw. So I'm going with 12.
12 points from the possible 18.
Yeah.
Clive. Do you want me to rerun? Do you want me to give you a run?
It doesn't really matter, right? Because I'll tell you what we need. We need 16, right? That's what we need, right? Because if you think, we're talking about finishing second to Leicester, but there's one other club involved in this, and they are really involved, and their routes be cleared. They're resting players in Europa Cup. They're out the FA Cup. They've got a better goal difference than us, and coming second to Leicester will be bad, but coming second to Tottenham, then I'm starting to emigrate, right? So this is let's get this straight, right? That is not something I want to see happen, right? So we need 16 points because these teams have got time to rest, and they've got a clearer run than we have. And
where do you see us dropping points? Man United, Swansea, Tottenham, West Brom, Everton, Watford. Where do you see us dropping 2 points?
I see the game that worries me the most is Man United, because Arsenal don't always play the team; they play the badge, right? And if we get past that game, everything's going to be good. And Man United's the one for me. Spurs takes care of itself because it's Spurs. And we know how to win at Spurs. We've done it before. It's not an issue for the club or the fans. They're doing good. That's just what we want. We want Spurs confident. We don't want them, feeling like the underdog. So Spurs doesn't worry me. That's known territory. Everton and Man United worry me a lot more because we don't go to North West and win very often. So they're the 2 games.
FK would come out to Beaches Brook and the Canal Turn if he was in the Grand National. Next 6 games, points wise, I think we're going to get.
Clive's right. We need 15, 16 points out of the 18. I think, wouldn't it just be typical of Arsenal to go to Old Trafford, turn over United? Well, not typical, but wouldn't this be typical Arsenal of the scenario? Go to Old Trafford, go to White Hart Lane, win both, but mess it up to Swansea and Watford at home. West Brom at home. You can kind of just do it. I mean, win your 3 home games. So Swansea, West Brom, Watford, I fancy us to win and win comfortably. Everton, really good on the road this season. At home, temperamental. Tottenham will take care of itself. Derby Day, everything goes out the window. Probably get a draw there. But the real catalyst is Old Trafford. We win on Sunday, and you're looking at 4 or 5 wins out of the 6. You've got to be optimistic at this stage. And the other thing, though, Giles, as much as good as the question is, rewind 10 games ago, we're probably looking at the last 20 fixtures thinking, the next 6 games we'll do that. Next 5. And it never, ever, ever happens. The focus has solely got to be Old Trafford. Let's just get it out of the way. let's try and turn them over. Let's do the double over them and just move on to Swansea and just take it one at a time. But Clive's right, we need 15, 16 out of the 18 otherwise. Otherwise, we're not looking at a title because Leicester have got a very, very favourable home run. And equally, people are looking at Leicester fixtures thinking, yeah, they'll probably win sort of 10 out of 12, but they've come unstuck against the lower teams. So who knows? Who knows?
You're right. I mean, we looked at this that we lost late last year with Clive, and we were talking about the dreaded winnable games. I don't think anymore. Looking at the next 6 games, I wouldn't call them winnable. As FK said, it's take every game as it comes, but definitely OT is the catalyst. I want to thank all of you tonight. I think Mark, you think Spurs is the big game for you, is it? You're saying?
Yeah, I do. I think you've only got to look at last season to see that mentally we still struggle with going there and actually beating them. So, and obviously because of it being them as well, I think we the one thing we cannot do is go there and give them 3 points. That would be criminal. So for me, it's about Tottenham.
I mean, in your time supporting the club, have you known a bit? I mean, I suppose 91 FA Cup semi-final was a big one, but you know, for two teams, for both the North London teams, has there been such a big occasion for both of us?
Well, obviously, last game of the season in 06. To be fair, you know, even though that didn't involve us in direct competition, but you know, I mean, they were a case of the shits away from taking our Champions League spot. So, yeah.
Indeed. Okay, right. So I want to thank all of you guys for coming on tonight. Clive, as always, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
FK, fought an admirable fight tonight. I have to say, you made me see sense and reason and calmed me down as Mark was driving me off the fucking cliff.
It's very, very kind of you to say, but I know it's really enjoyable. I haven't done a podcast in a while now because of being married and putting on weight. As you'd, I'm surprised you haven't had a dig at me yet. But no, it's been great, man, and I'd love to get involved again if you'd have me.
Absolutely, sir. You know. Come on, man.
All right, when we win the league, Mark.
And Mark, I hope you haven't pulled an aneurysm, man. Yeah, I mean that was epic.
I think you should have seen the blood pressure climbing while I was listening to FK's party political broadcast on behalf of the AKB party. I was just fucking going through the roof, mate.
It's all good.
It's all good. It's all football, man. It's all football. All right, so that's been me, Giles. It's been a good Ramble podcast. Catch us on iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, the website, GoonerRamble.com. Make sure you get your teams in for the big Arsenal quiz at Tolleton on the 9th of March. And we'll see you soon. Thank you and good night.